Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 creative coach, and welcome to my vlog, where it's my mission and simultaneous pleasure to highlight my creative journey in hopes of inspiring you, giving you specific takeaways, all so that your journey may be a little bit easier, or that's the hope at least. Before I get into things, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It means a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. Also, I just want to say Happy International Women's Day. I think it's a very important day of recognition. Women need to be put into more places of power. Women just add so much to our society, both creatively, business-wise, and everything you can sort of imagine. And so I don't think women get the recognition that they deserve. And even on a day like this, I still don't think they get enough recognition. In fact, one of the things I tried to do today was to at least shoot a quick text to the women I know and just let them know, hey, I see you, I applaud you, and keep going and things like that. Just a small little message of encouragement and recognition. And so even if you're listening to this on a day that is not the International Women's Day, I think the same spirit can still apply, and whoever receives that text from you, will have the same sort of reaction of positivity and whatnot. So do that. Now, as far as how I would summarize last week, in soccer, there are certain games where, as a team, you're just not playing very well. But the sign of a good team is that in spite of not playing well in a game, you can eke out a victory. Even when you're not firing on all cylinders, you can do what's necessary and just get the victory that's needed and move on to fight and whatnot another day. And that is kind of how last week is ultimately summarized. There was just so much kind of going on all at once, and some of it was frustrating, some of it was just just jam-packed, and it felt like from multiple angles a lot of things were being asked of me. And it's not like everyone coordinated was like, hey, let's make a hell week for Phil. It was more so just kind of happenstance, right? And so I can't be mad at anyone. Like, every person had a right to ask me for X, Y, and Z. The coincidence was that they just happened to be asking me at the same exact time and kind of relatively with the same exact deadlines. And so it is what it is, and you just kind of have to roll up your sleeves and get down to business and just do it, And where I say, like, and I tie the metaphor of a good soccer team really just getting the victory in spite of not playing well. There was a couple of things that were just frustrating, that were, for me, self-inflicted of my projects. And so I had to just, okay, how do I just, get this done in the way that I can, just so at least the ball keeps moving forward. And so that's a lot in terms of what I dealt with. One of the things that I'll kind of talk about, and I'll speak in vague terms just for confidentiality and things like that, but there's an aspect of the project where I just, meaning my short film and packaging what will hopefully be my second feature film called In Search of Sunrise. And there's various moving parts to it. And there was this one person I was working with, we just weren't seeing eye to eye. And, it's one of those things I had to have a hard conversation and say, like, here's where I'm at. I know you're well-intentioned and things like that, but I want to, we're not seeing eye to eye on this one. And it's strange because for the most part, we've been seeing eye to eye on past projects and things like that. And we have a fairly good working relationship, and certainly, we consider each other friends, but this was not that project. But I had to have that difficult conversation with the person and just say, like, this, for whatever reason, it's just not working. or hasn't been. And, you try to kind of come up with a working solution. And in this case, the working solution was, well, this isn't the project for us. Let's just hit pause on this. It won't be this, and we'll move forward and remain friends. And if there's a project in the future that we get to work on together, great. But no use throwing out the friendship because of this project. And Tim Ferriss often talks about this, like, as far as your success goes, the more conversations that are difficult that you're willing to have, the more successful you will be. I'm butchering that in terms of how he states it, but that's the general idea. And so, as apprehensive as I may have been going into that conversation, I knew it needed to be had for my sake and the other person's sake and for the project's sake. And, in the end, when you go into it with humility and compassion, I think you can get to a place that is amicable, and works for both parties rather than, someone feeling slighted or something like that. So yeah, that was kind of a big portion of last week. And in general, things are moving forward. I feel like this week, like, it's one of those things, initially when you start a project, you see a lot of results, right? Because, kind of things are moving and they're quick. But once you get towards kind of the latter part, the changes that need to be made, and like, for example, in terms of the visual effects, in terms of the sound design, in terms of the music for my film, the changes are very specific and so forth. And so you're dealing in micro, not macro. And so you might not see as much progress, at least, that has been the general thing for me, because you have to really kind of look under the hood and really kind of, fine tune it and so forth. And that fine tuning takes a lot of effort. And so, the number of items off the checklist, you don't cross out as much, but they are significant nonetheless. And now I feel like this week we've kind of aligned things across all these different areas. And now this is where things will start to really be finalized, and things will start coming in, and, I can collect them and start crossing off the checklist of this is done, this is done, this is done. And that's exciting, right? I think anyone in that position would say the same thing. Once you see the culmination of even, we've been, shooting-wise, we shot at the end of January, I think January 23rd and January 24th. And so we're now kind of approaching mid-March. So it's cool, even just from that time period, it's a lot of weeks worth of hard work on everyone's part. And so to see kind of the finish line be within distance is really awesome, So I'm looking forward to that. Not to say that everything will be complete by the end of this week. Probably won't, but certainly will be close enough, which is exciting. As part of that, one thing that I've been thinking about that I need to start doing is thinking about the pitch for this. I'm going to have to kind of pitch this and whatnot. And so I have the content of a pitch deck done. It still needs to be put into visual form, and that's being worked on. And I have the synopsis, and I have all this other stuff, and I have research about, production companies and so forth. But now I need to, kind of like anything, you want to rehearse, like an actor going into audition. You want to have memorized the lines. You want to have a sense of, kind of what you're getting into. And so for me, the way I want to approach it is I'll film myself I'll much like I film these, I'll have a lav on me and I'll just recite the script, if you will, or at least the bullet points. So that way, I have the audio version of them and I'll have it read by me in a cadence that I think works. And then when I go on walks with my dog and things of that nature, I'll just listen to it back. So it'll really get in my head, and I'll be able to really mimic that rhythm and flow. Of course, when you give a pitch and things like that, things will inevitably change, but at least I'll know it like the back of my hand, so to speak, right? So that's going to be my process as far as the focus of this week, among other things. So there's that. Now, on an unrelated subject, one of the other things that I've been kind of thinking about is publishing my first novel. I've been sending query letters to agents and so forth, and it's been a couple months, maybe half a year in the process. And last week was also #PitMad, which is a Twitter event done once every quarter where you essentially tweet a pitch of your book, and agents, if they like it, then you get to submit them your manuscript and so forth. And I've been kind of doing that and so forth. And not to say that by not getting the results, things are bad and so forth, right? Especially right now because of the pandemic, a lot of literary agents just in general are not taking submissions. They're focused on their clients and so forth. So it's a very interesting time for everybody. And my understanding is that, let's say a literary agent did, like my manuscript and so forth and wanted to move forward, it would probably be about 18 months before the thing was ultimately published. Which is fine by me ultimately, but, I'm kind of thinking, debating, is that wait worth it ultimately, or, is it time to start thinking of self-publishing? And not as in terms of it being a defeat. There's a lot of wonderful authors who self-publish. And, instead maybe it's I believe in this, the product's done, and so why not just kind of get it out there for audiences? And, I have other projects in the works, ironically enough, I'm just kind of been thinking about this what could potentially be another novel. And so I've been thinking about that. And as of right now, I've got kind of a bare bones outline of it. So, if nothing else, I do like to close certain loops. And so, just to get the novel out there would be a loop closed, and at least it can have a life of its own, and mentally it can move on to other stuff. And again, that's the kind of fine line as an artist. You have to have patience with your work, and getting it out there. And so I haven't necessarily made up my mind, but the fact that I can self-publish and things like that, there is a bit of an allure to that of then let the chips fall where they may, kind of from there. We'll see. As part of that, it's a novel, it's a coming of age story based on my adventures in Slovakia, very dramatized and so forth. I would say at this point, only about 15 to 20% of what is actually written there is actually based on my life. But nonetheless, it's set in Slovakia. And so one of the things in terms of self-publishing I thought about was, okay, let me self-publish that, and let me hire a translator to also put it in Slovak and, publish it in that form as well. I have to kind of do more research into that, but by translating it, it's not necessarily for the book sales. It's just for the idea that, I've always the reason I wrote the story was because I wanted to honor my heritage and, my summers and so forth. And so it'd be cool to have it live, in the Slovak language, which, that's ultimately what the story is kind of emulating, right? The people of Slovakia. Now, as far as that goes, one of the big things that's kind of holding me off, certainly from self-publishing, is that I have an ace up my sleeve that I can kind of go to for advice, and not someone who owes me a favor, but someone who is a mentor of mine and I really respect, and I just haven't leaned into that yet. But I think, I'm going to do a little bit more research and then kind of lean into that and, get their advice, and they might say self-publish, or they might, be the person that really connects me with a literary agent that they know, with who it might make sense with. So we'll see. I don't know because I haven't, like I said, tapped into that quite yet. But yeah, that's kind of been the focus of what I've been working on overall. I mentioned this last episode, but my intent, everything seems to be lining up, but early April, I would love to do a virtual premiere of the proof of concept, which is, another short film for the thing that highlights. Yes, Chloe is very excited for this to happen. She wants it to happen sooner. I would too, but yeah, it's a short film that showcases the spirit of what the feature film would be, and so I'm going to keep you updated on that if that's something that you're curious about. But yeah, as of now, every intention to have that be early April. We'll see if all that pans out, but as of now, all things are kind of moving steadily towards that. Anyway, that's kind of what I've got going on. The stuff that I can't really talk about, just crazy week of just work, and then also doing some cool stuff with the Grammys during my non-work hours as they head into their award show. So again, can't really go into too many details, but that's also been exciting. A lot of work, but exciting. And yeah, so that's what I've kind of got going on. If you have any questions about any of the stuff I talked about, or even stuff that I haven't talked about, by all means, please ask away. Happy to converse with you, whether down in the comment section or hit me up on social media @Svitek. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.